finally, we are meeting in person, JoJo. Finally. Okay, so the last time we had a conversation, it was during the pandemic. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it also feels like yesterday. But then again, it's like...
Yeah, are they messing with the time? Like, what's up? Is this a simulation? Why is it like this?
What is happening? Okay, wait. Can we talk about you being on Broadway first off? Because, hello? That is amazing. How is it being on Broadway in Moulin Rouge? By the way, I had a chance to watch it before. It's so good. So
it's an amazing show.
It's an amazing, incredible show.
When did you see it? Probably not when I was in it, right? You've seen the show, though.
When did you start?
Well, I'm not in it anymore. I did 2 different runs.
But when were you in?
I was in a few months ago, and then the year previously where I did. So I've done different. I did like a 4-month run and another 4-month run. So it was amazing.
Wait, I might have asked Colin when we went. It was last year.
Yeah, it might not have been me, but because I absolutely loved my experience, and it changed my life. Like it sharpened me to be around such amazing performers because they're just cut from a different cloth to be doing 8 shows a week at the highest level.
It's a grind.
It's a grind. And to experience that firsthand and to be a part of the community and to just be day in and day out, I think I needed to experience like that discipline, and I loved it. I mean, look, I've been a performer since I was a little girl, but it's just a different level. I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to step up to reach that.
What was the biggest difference? Because I do feel like you being on the road and performing for so long, this is what you do. I do feel like Broadway kind of fits smoothly into that, no?
Yeah, but I've been thinking about it, and when I've been asked about it, I feel like pop singing, when I was training to do a more, like, what's it called? Not that I was singing in a legit style, because that's what they call it, like when you're singing in a certain placement, or where it's more like operatic placement or something. That's just all my bad habits that I'd picked up as a pop singer, and like there was a flashlight on them. I was like, I can't sing this way if I'm going to sustain this many shows a week. Like I literally have to find a new way to sing.
What is it? Is it straining on your vocal cords? Or
pop singing is not safe. Like if you don't learn proper technique, which I didn't learn proper technique as a kid. So I learned a lot through getting ready to put myself in a position to even think about doing musical theater. And it was like life-changing and voice-saving and a lot of different things, because I kind of just got in the game, and then was like, I don't need these things, and my mom was like, it's okay, keep going, and so I've like started really training in the past like 7 years, and it's great. So like operatic training and more building my range and trying to close some of the gaps and things like that.
That is so interesting. I mean, as fans, we wouldn't know that, right? Because you've been doing it. Your voice sounds incredible. When I'm hearing new music, how do you take care of your voice? It feels like nothing has changed. Do you notice any changes?
Yeah, I mean, I hear my instrument expanding, and I hear my relationship with my instrument and this gift. Like, that sounded crazy. That sounded so bad. But I was, we were all given a gift, and I have a voice, and it's been fun to like see it change. There's been periods where it doesn't sound too good, and where I was like, what am I doing? And I don't even know what this is anymore. But like, I feel like I have a good relationship with it now. And I do think that being on Broadway helped strengthen that.
Oh, this is so fascinating. So everyone embraced you. They weren't looking at you as, okay, this pop singer's coming in here is going to just be on diva energy, or how was that? Because I always feel like maybe when it comes to like theater or Broadway, there might be a little,
Absolutely. I probably would have looked at me like that, because so I had a bit of an insecurity going in that I was going to need to, I don't know, that I just really wanted to make sure that everyone knew how much I respect being here and how grateful I am to be here, because it's really hard work, and these people have, been in it day in and day out.
Yeah.
So, but I'll be honest, I was so pleasantly surprised at the way I was embraced.
It's amazing.
And I think that hard work and
that's right,
like the community aspect of it, I think people respect that. And I definitely was not coming in with a diva attitude. That's not who I am. And it was so reassuring, and like people held my hand through the process of like, I didn't know there were so many things that I didn't know about what goes on behind the scenes, about tipping the person that does your wig, tipping the person that helps you get into your costume. I didn't know about this culture, and the hanging out after, like they had these things called Saturday night on Broadway, which they called a snob, and like you'd host a snob in somebody's room, and someone would put that on, and like, let's do a Mexican food themed snob. And so that was the culture of the particular theater, and it was just really cool. And I'm taking some of these things along with me. I'll take them with me forever. Like when I do, I'm going on my own tour.
That's right. Congratulations.
But thanks, girl. So it's like, yeah, every little every point in my life is I'm just taking it and bringing it into the next chapter. Yeah.
What do you feel like you're bringing into NGL? Tell me a little bit about that, because I do feel, listen, it's been a while. We hear you in and out of news all the time. Like in general, when it comes to music, because your fans have been following you for over 20 years at this point, and, they go hard.
They do go hard.
They go hard for you.
So amazing.
So where are you now? What is your mindset? And how is that going to, I guess, play a role for us when we are listening to NGL? What do you want us to take away from this?
I am having more fun than I have ever been having, than I was ever having before. Like, I feel inspired again. I feel lit up by experiencing different art forms. I love living in New York. I love the energy that it gives me, and that's what I wrote this EP from, that standpoint of like living here for the first time and being single, and really truly understanding that if I don't love myself, I cannot expect other people to, it has to start with that. Yeah. I have to be able to sit with myself and really be cool with it and love it. And I started having a great time with life again, and just feeling more empowered, not feeling like things were happening to me, but that things were happening for me. And so what I want people to take from the EP, I just want them to have put their own experiences on it. Yeah. I hope that they feel freedom and empowerment. And that's kind of a corny word, but just empowered to create a life that they actually enjoy.
I feel like you are more free now in general. Just the conversation, I feel that you're comfortable, right?
And I think that comes with getting older too.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wisdom, it's experience. It's just everything comes together at the perfect moment, and it just all makes sense. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get it. Do you remember that aha moment for you where you're just like, I just don't care anymore? And I don't care in the sense of jeopardizing myself, because I do think a part of it is like we're so in our head all the time. We're kind of putting like these roadblocks, but I don't feel like there's anything holding you back. You're not worried about what the industry thinks. You don't care what people have to say. Like, I don't feel any of those barriers with you.
The industry is not holding me close at night and, running their fingers through my hair.
Not at all.
Okay. What the hell? Like, and nor is my manager or my, executive or whatever. Like, life is too short to be doing weird stuff that you don't like.
Yeah.
And I would say that a moment was like, nobody told me that I should they're like, oh, it would be a great career move, because I have lived for my career for a very long time, since I was probably 7 years old. Oof. I have been, trying to climb and blah, blah, and do, not climb, just climb out of poverty, climb out of my parents are struggling with addiction, and I don't feel stability. I want to create stability. I want that.
Yeah.
And now, and I don't want to, I was like, I don't need to feel so afraid, actually. I've been okay for a long time now. I don't need to keep thinking that something's, I've always gotten up if I've ever gotten knocked down. The rug can get pulled out,
Anytime.
and then what?
And then what?
You're gonna be okay.
Right.
And people are gonna disagree with your thoughts or your ideas. Nobody was like, you should do Broadway. That'd be a great career move. Like, go do Moulin Rouge. No one was like, sick idea, bro. I was just like, this is what I want to do. I think this would be really, I think it'd be good for my inner child.
That's right.
That's why,
Yeah.
And I grew from it. And my managers were like, I don't think you should move to New York. Like, LA is still where everything is. I'm like, I don't care.
Is it though?
I don't know anymore.
Right?
I mean,
the internet is the internet. And
exactly. I think you can be you from anywhere.
Yes.
And I was like, let me stand on that.
Yes.
And I'm closer to my family in Massachusetts, and I
love that.
That's I'm realizing that my values and my priorities have shifted, and I do think that's a gift of getting older. Like a friend of mine who's in her early 20s was like, I really don't want to go to this party tonight, but I feel bad. Blah blah blah. I'm like, you don't have to go.
That's the beauty.
You don't have to.
You don't have.
She was like, I just needed to hear that. So like now that I'm in my early 30s, I'm like, I'm just gonna tell people you don't need to do stuff you don't want to do.
Right.
Sometimes it's good, but feel into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel at times that, not just the managers, but in general, people want you to still be this pop star when you first emerge onto the scene, and they're not just really embracing JoJo and all the different sides. And you're just like, okay, guys, are we not past that moment?
I have no idea. Like, I don't really think about it because I just don't even know her. That's a child.
Wow.
I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Like, that was then, and that's cool. And I'm so grateful to have songs that stand the test of time and that go viral 20 years later. That's crazy.
Isn't that?
So many artists never get to have that experience of songs that like people want to yell at you on the street or they want to like make videos to. It's so amazing that these songs have held up.
Do you feel, I don't know, how sometimes artists, they don't like to be reminded of the past, or hearing your iconic classic song leave, right? Do you get annoyed when people are coming up to you and they're like, I love that song, and they're singing it to you? Or do you embrace those moments?
I embrace those moments because, like, it feels so much better to be positive about a beautiful moment. What the hell? Like, that's a nice moment. Yes. Do I want to be like, you need to download my new EP? Like, that's not going to make them, like, if they come to it, great. Like, I'm just not really tripping. I don't know. Yeah. Like, it's nice to have a nice interaction with somebody. And a lot of us grew up together. A lot of my fans have been with me since the beginning. And some people, don't know everything that's happened in my life. And why would they? So, I think it's great if a song made an impression on them. Like, that's nice.
Leave turns 21 years old.
Yes.
You have a 21-year-old right
Isn't
now.
that crazy? I was 13 when that came out. So,
and what did you know about those lyrics at that time?
Not a god thing.
Me and Katrina were talking about. First off, when we were listening to it, singing it at the top of our lungs, we didn't know what was really going on. Did you know the impact the song was going to have? Like,
no, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I've recently realized that because people are like, how were you connecting to those lyrics? I'm like,
it was deep. It was.
It's a breakup song.
Yes.
But I realized that it's because I grew up singing blues records. Mm-hmm. So the blues is like about losing everything and about heartbreak and like, you don't love me no more, like whatever. And that's kind of what Leave is. I mean, it's like heartbreak, and I'm realizing that that's why I was so comfortable singing it, because I had grown up covering those songs in performances and things like that. And but no, I didn't know the impact that it would have, and it was a little confusing because the rest of my first album, they were like the label was branding it as like hip hop. Mm-hmm. So Leave felt like really poppy, and I was like, how does this make sense? But I'm so grateful that I was the vessel for that song, and that
What does it feel like now, just in general, when you do see your debut album, JoJo, re-entering the charts again, right?
It's crazy.
And you're just seeing things that you've done previously find a new cycle of life. Do you look at it and take that moment in, or is it just, hey, okay, I'm just thankful and I move on. Like, how do you receive, interesting, great news, but it kind of feels like, who would have thought years later I can enjoy the moment and the success it has?
The way I think about it is just life is so random and delightful and also painful and just, sometimes like devastating and sometimes delightful, like and amazing and awe-inspiring, and like life is so many things. So when something is kind of strange like that happens, I'm like, that is so cool. But how also random and cool is it that Miguel's Sure Thing went like as crazy as it did years after its release.
So
bottom line is now you never know when something's going to take off or have a moment. And I believe that it's possible that my that the first album is on the charts again, possibly because of the success of my memoir that just came out. Like, it became a New York Times bestseller. Maybe that's something that's like, I don't know what's feeding what. I don't know if it's from TikTok. I don't know if something went viral and then they were like, oh, I want to stream her stuff. I have no idea. But I don't really spend that much time thinking about it. I actually have only thought about it just now. I'm like, what is it? I don't know.
Maybe because I personally have felt that you didn't get the appreciation that you've deserved over the years in your career. Maybe just as fans and people who have heard your music, we wanted more. And so it's nice to see this. It's nice to see that, like what Katrina and I were listening to, it's like, of course, this is great. And I'm glad people are catching on. But that's the beauty of the internet, is that who your fans were before, yes, everyone's growing with you. But you're also coming across new fans.
Yeah.
And so both worlds are coming together. So have you had a conversation or come across a fan that knows you, more in recent time and have no idea of all the other things that you've done previously? And are they as shocked? Like, how do you deal with that moment?
I actually think that's pretty cool too. I did like a station head listening party for some fans with the EP, and somebody... I had somebody on and I was talking with them and they were like, I just discovered your music in the pandemic. I just heard of you for the first time like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, oh, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they really loved my Good to Know album, and they're like, and then I went back and I did a deep dive and I'm like, whoa, how did I not know, or whatever. But they're young, like, so they didn't grow up with me. And I just think that it's just cool. However music gets to you, like, I'm all for that. And I also, as far as like people, that was so sweet of you to say that, fans might want more for me or whatever, but I just really believe that everyone's path is uniquely theirs. And I really accept that now. I didn't always, but I really, really do.
How did you accept it? I always, especially when, you put your memoir out, right? There's a lot of information in it. And I respect the fact that you talked about, at times feeling a little jealous of other artists, right? And having that feeling early on, right, in your career, and just like moments where you're seeing other artists take off or your peers. I really respect the honesty. How did you come to this point of accepting your path and being okay with it being unique and not worrying about other paths and not wondering, well, why not me?
Well, it's really unpleasant to go around feeling like that, to feel like, why me or why not me or whatever. And I've done a great share of thinking that way and living that way. And I actually think that with some other artists, like some things that I talked about in the book as far as feeling like, a little jealous, a little envious, whatever. I realized that it's because I perceived them to have an easier road than me. I'm like, oh, you come from money. You have support. You have two parents even. I realized that it actually is more like foundational insecurities that I have as a human being, where I'm like, you know what I mean? Where it's not even about fame. It's like, your life is easier. Like, I bet it feels nice to go back and recline and go to your parents' house where they have things and like a car that you can borrow or something. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I know that sounds silly, but I'm like, actually, it's like, it's just a mentality of like, I'm not okay in this world. And a lot of therapy is what it took. 10 years of therapy now and of looking at myself and my patterns and being like, how have I sabotaged things that were that could have been open doors, or people that wanted to connect with me or help me or align with me, and I just was too in pain to notice or to be a recipient of like those things. So I can't look at everyone else and be like, it was the industry or it was this or blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't, it is what it is. Like, I didn't stand behind all the music I was making from, at a certain point. Like, I was not awake and aware. I was numb. I was like trying to please everyone except myself. And you can't live that way, and you can't do meaningful stuff that way.
What was that moment that you realized, I need to go to therapy, I got to take care of me, I don't like how I feel? Because that moment is a very powerful moment. And I just feel like either it happens or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And someone can, your best friend, whoever, can be like, JoJo, I think you need to go get help, or I need you to go, have some type of self-reflection. But ultimately, it falls on you whether or not you want to change how you look at life.
Yeah.
What made you decide, I need to work on me? This falls on me.
Yeah. I was really feeling like I wasn't going to make it. Like, I wasn't going to be alive. I was going to hurt myself or someone else, whether it was, getting behind the wheel after a night of drinking and how horrible that is. But that was where I was at in my early 20s. I was in such despair, such darkness. And I think that it was really a cry for help. I wished someone would send me to rehab. I wished that someone would just check me in. I was crying out for help, but no one was really like, you need to do this, even though I was in an abusive relationship, like my spine all messed up for being pushed down on the ground, like just in a dynamic where we were just screaming at each other and getting out the car and being like, blah, blah, blah. Just nuts, because so much pain and project and having it be, it was just, and I was, I just needed to do something. I'm so grateful that I think my manager at the time, like, saw what was covered by my insurance, found this this therapist that was near me in the neighborhood that I was living in LA. I could walk to her. Almost. She was pretty close, and I still talk to her to this day. And she saved my life, changed my life, introduced me to yoga and meditation, and I had so much that I needed to let go of and work on, and it was a very, very slow, gradual process. I was chain smoking cigarettes. I was wanting to destroy myself because I was in so much pain and feeling very much like a victim.
I was telling Katrina earlier, on the outside, I don't think fans and people in general had any idea.
I don't think they had any idea.
I learned so much, certain things that you talked about in the memoir that's, been published that I had no idea. And I would like to think, Katrina and I, we've been in the game for a very long time. It never surfaced. And I don't know if it was your team at the time.
I don't think people cared enough. I think that I got to fly under the radar.
I think so? Nothing came, there weren't crazy scandalous stories or anything like that. I just kind of feel like things were kind of, it was just kind of, I don't want to say suppressed, because obviously
it was suppressed.
Okay. Because I was
it was depressed, repressed, suppressed. I don't know, but it's not like there were stories that were like page 6 where you needed to keep them down or anything. And I think you're right about that. It wasn't like that.
It wasn't out there, but I love the fact that regardless, you still were like, I need to take care of myself. I know in this moment I need to go, pour into myself. And I think that's, I don't know, there's something about that when you want it, when you want to change your life. There's something really powerful there. And at times when, we feel despair, it's hard to dig into that and hold on to that and continue. You said you do a lot of therapy, 10 years.
I grew up with going to AA meetings. My book is called Over the Influence because I spent a lot of time under the influence of different things, different systems, ways of thinking, things that I subscribe to, and substances as well. And both my parents met in AA, actually. So I grew up hearing people share their innermost, darkest, struggles and asking for help and humbly coming and just being like, I need some support.
Yeah.
So I think that growing up and seeing people be raw and vulnerable like that from a young age, I mean, I literally grew up in these AA meetings. I think that I realized that I was like, oh, I walked around very self-righteous for a long time. Like, I'm never going to be like my parents. I'm not going to, I'm not an addict. And I'm like, wow, maybe I am actually in different ways because I've gone to love, I've gone to food, I've gone to sex, I've gone to adoration, I've gone to substances. Like, maybe I am in my own way. And I had to strip away the ego that had been keeping me from even living, really,
Do you think that played a part in the title, Not Gonna Lie?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was like, this is an interesting title for the EP. I love this, right? You have great conversation in general. But you are very honest in this moment and just as of late, I just feel like you are, you're, again, comfortable. You're just owning it. Like, hey, this is part of it. I was so shocked you put the memoir out, but then I see the title of the EP and I'm just like, okay, there's something freeing here. What was behind that title? And why is it important that you're not going to lie? And what were you lying about in the first place?
More like lying to myself about like, oh, I dig this or I don't or whatever. Just like, not gonna lie is inspired by owning all the different parts of yourself. I'm not gonna lie about feeling like I'm a contradiction a lot of the times where I'm like so strong and I'm, out here a bad bitch and then, also feeling like a little regretful, thinking about like, oh, I really handled that wrong, or like, being an emo girl too, and just owning all the things. And I love R&B and soul, and I love pop, and I love jazz, and I love alternative, and I don't need to let go of any of those things. Like, I think now's the perfect time that everybody just be themselves because you only live once.
Yeah.
But NGL and Over the Influence, it's all kind of just in this season for me of wanting to just move closer to authenticity, because something I worked on with my therapist so much is getting back to self-trust. Like, I did not trust myself for a very long time.
When you were working on the EP, NGL, I had read that you went through a breakup, an engagement got called off. Now, do you actually talk about that on the EP?
I actually don't talk about that person on the EP at all.
Oh.
It's about an on-again, off-again relationship that I had.
Okay, so it's a different person.
It's a different person
Okay.
that I had an entanglement with after my engagement. After like a year after that, I was like, oh, should we run this back? And then I was like, no, we should not do that again.
Do not go back.
Don't go back. I've learned
forward.
that. Yeah, go forward.
forward.
So I realized that I was writing the last songs about that dynamic. So
Yeah.
off again, even just being like, it's not just about a relationship, but it's really, NGL is mostly inspired by me feeling the freedom of living in a new city, and unsubscribing from other people's ideas for what's right for me.
Yeah.
No one knows what's right for anybody. Like, it's all, what can you live with? What lights you up?
How's dating in New York?
It's been great.
What's the highlight?
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
The highlight is so good.
Like, when you're coming across somebody that you might be interested in, have you noticed just a different vibe being in New York? And you're just like, you know what? I think this might be home for a while.
Yeah. I'm an East Coast girl, and I lived in LA for 14 years, and I love it. It is home in a way. It really is. Like, when I perform there on this tour, I can't wait. My people, I have so many core memories there. Like, I love LA. But there's something about the seasons here. There's something about, it's hard. It's like, harder. It's just inconvenient to live here.
Yeah.
And it's expensive. You got to be a certain person, I think, to.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think men are more forward, and I appreciate that. And it was really, I had the best dating experiences of my life here in New York. I actually didn't date really in LA, except for like my weird on again, off again things that I was doing in my 20s.
Right.
So this has been like a really cool chapter.
It's more, would you say more adult-like
I mean, because I'm an adult now.
Yeah, sure.
So I will say that, yeah, it's like, for me, it was giving like, men are coming up with dates and they're like, you know what I mean? As opposed to guys being like,
what do you want to do?
I'm like,
I don't know, figure it out.
I'm not responding. Yeah. It was cool.
Is it like the iconic show Sex and the City?
Is it like that? I was kind of feeling like I was living in a Sex and the City episode, for sure.
What episode? What was going on? I need to know. What made you feel like that?
I don't know.
Was it a good date or a bad date?
Mostly, honestly, my life has reflected so many Sex and the City episodes. Like,
yes.
Yeah, I was having so much fun on the little app, and I couldn't believe that I was on an app, but I was like, why not?
Dating app?
I was on Raya, and it was cute.
Yeah.
Because you get to see people out here that you might not meet just randomly, especially in entertainment and stuff. So, yeah, life is so random.
What character are you into right now? Like, if you were describing your dating life, which character out of the show would it be like?
I'm a mix of all of them. I think most women are a mix of all of them.
Absolutely.
I'm
like today, JoJo.
Today, I don't know. It's I don't know, girl.
Are you trying to get married?
Right now?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, then Charlotte's out the window.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get married.
Okay,
right
we're
now.
not there.
No.
Maybe Carrie? Maybe just kind of like
it's definitely
casual,
main character.
Yeah.
But she's so problematic, and I think we know that now. Like, she was such a bad friend. Sorry, I love you, Sarah Jessica. Yeah, I think she was kind of judgmental, especially to be a sex columnist.
Yeah. A bit judgy.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm like, don't you want to hear about Samantha's escapades? Like, why are you like blah blah blah? Like, she's like, can I have my eggs first? I'm like, aren't you right about sex? Like, you should be freer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
You know?
See, we need to go back and watch it through those lenses, right?
No, and I do. And I also like to go on YouTube deep dives about Sex and the City.
I love this.
Me too.
I love this.
I every once in a while it's a guilty pleasure I don't feel guilty at all about. But I'll watch Sex and the City, and then sometimes I'll watch a YouTube counterpart where they're like dissecting an episode, and I like it.
What else do you deep dive on? Like if we went into your browser right now and we looked it up, what would we find in there and just be like, wow, okay.
Oh my God. Well,
she loves unicorns.
Yeah, it ain't unicorns. But I just like, I think a lot of us do have ADD. So I'll go on tangents for sure.
Of course.
But right now I've been really enjoying, I recently performed with John Batiste, and I opened his...
So talented.
So unbelievable.
And so amazing. An incredible
As a human
person.
being.
Absolutely.
Just
for sure.
Full of light and life.
That's it.
So it was so cool that I got to perform with him at the opening of his new jazz club in the Bahamas, because I have been deep diving in the Great American Songbook. So I've been learning a lot of jazz standards and blues songs, and it's been bringing me so much joy to like watch a bunch of videos and get inspired, listening to Nancy Wilson and Etta Jones and Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole. It's been so, I feel like a little kid again, like studying. I love learning, and I feel like it's opening me up to a whole new influence and inspiration. I've always been into jazz, but it was great because I had already been like a few months into really diving in. So I was like, yeah, let's do these 3 songs. And he was like, oh, cool. Do you know the keys? You want to do them? And I'm like, yeah, I do. So, that was cool.
I love full circle moments, just in general. You know, when you're thinking about what's inspired you, what you listen to, and just seeing everything connect. It's just, life is what it's supposed to be. You know, everything happens at the right time.
We have to believe that.
We have to. And it's hard at times when it's feeling like heavy.
And there is heavy stuff going on.
For sure.
Particularly right now.
For sure.
For everyone and for individuals and communities. And it's very, very real. But for me, I have just tried to focus on what I can control, because so much feels like it's and is out of our control.
Yeah.
So I want to choose those pockets of peace and those moments of connection and the things that bring us together and the things that light us up, and those like moments on the subway where like you meet eyes with another girl and you just smile at each other and it's like, girl, hi, you're cute. You know, it's like so nice.
We need that. You know, it's just like sometimes you got to find, it's like just a silver lining, just some positive. I feel like in that vein, is that the motivation behind you creating your own label, right? Because the EP is on your own label, Clover Music
That's
label.
Right.
Is that the control, the pockets of control in the sense of what you are able to control, right? Why do you have your own label?
I've learned so much in the 21 years that I've been doing this. And now is such a time where where artists can have a direct relationship with their fans. And I've tried it for so long and thrived in the environment of, you know, I've had amazing success with the major label system. But then I started to feel like I was getting swallowed by it and like it wasn't working for me anymore.
Right.
And to profit share in that way didn't make financial or even spiritual sense. So I wanted to take what I've learned and be able to put out music on my terms and not feel like I needed to stress about certain things. And eventually, as I continue to learn and when I feel that I have the spaciousness for it, I would really love to be a part of other artists' careers and supporting them and signing them to Clover. And just, I want to take the things that I've learned and the way that I could potentially help younger artists and support them in this really unique journey that it is to live a creative life.
Best piece of advice that you would give to a young creator now? From your experience and what you've gone through, someone is sitting in your office, right? Hey, I'm interested in being part of Clover Music label, but, you know, JoJo, I need some advice. I'm hungry. I'm ready. What would you tell them?
Something I didn't realize until very recently, like the past couple years, is that relationships are everything. Yes, your talent is so important, and the way that you hone that talent is really important, but your relationships, whether it's with your relationships will make life open up for you. And it could be a relationship with the 3 people that follow you, and then they'll spread the word, and they'll want to tell people about the music you're making. So, one, nurture the relationships that are meaningful to you, and even the ones that don't seem meaningful. Like, relationships are really important. I would say not the ones that don't feel meaningful. Like, yeah, you know, and community. You can't do it alone. You don't need to, I think it was, I don't know if it was Issa Rae that was talking about building, like looking to your peers to build with. You don't need to like climb this way. It can be like building out this way. And so if you're in school, see if there's somebody who is really good at something that maybe you need help with. Like, do you need somebody who knows how to make beats because you don't? Like, whatever it is, or somebody who is great with clothing and you're like, oh, I love the way you dress. Like, can we collaborate on something? That's really important. And lastly, remain a student and always look for ways to grow, because otherwise you'll probably get jaded. And don't forget to have fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't forget to have fun, kids. For real.
You gotta have fun. What would you tell your younger self right now? You know, we've seen you grow in front of the cameras. You were a child star. And now, with the wisdom and the experience you have, you know, what advice would you have given to your younger self?
It gets better. Yeah, it gets better if you just give it time. And sometimes being patient is it's the hardest thing.
Yes.
When you just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, or you just feel discouraged, you're in a depression, whatever it is, but it gets better. And it gets better if you let it. And yeah.
I love that part. If you let it. It's hard. It's really hard at times. And I think for a lot of us, again, on the outside, we hear this scariness, that we hear about all the scary things that happen to child stars. Is that really what it's like as a child star? Like, if you came across somebody, a child star who's on the come up, they want to sign to Clover music label. And you're like, you know what? I got some wisdom. I got some advice. Are there the concerns that we hear about, are they real? And what should people do in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, did you see that Nickelodeon documentary?
I did it. I heard about it. Yeah. Quiet on Set.
Quiet on Set, exactly.
Was it, when you watch it, did you feel like, okay, yeah, no, I mean,
that was hellacious. That was crazy. But I know that really happened. Mm-hmm. And I did a pilot called Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, which was on Nickelodeon. And then I got signed, and then my label was like, you can't go back and do that. And I was like, okay, whatever you say. But so I was just like, whoa, that's crazy that I might have been a part of that Nickelodeon thing at the time. But of course those stories are real. Of course people experience that abuse, and it's disturbing and it's unfathomable. And what can people do? I mean, I think what was interesting about that documentary too is it showed how well-meaning parents sometimes can get swept up in fame or access or adulation, or sometimes they can get distracted, or sometimes they have other things going on, or sometimes it's just, it was just so sad how people's lives were destroyed from being victims of abuse at the hands of people that are meant to look out for them. And there are different forms of abuse. That's physical and sexual abuse that was talked about really a lot in that documentary. And then there's the more and then there's a different kind, which is mental, emotional, and gets into you in ways that you'll be recovering from for a long time. Where it's, for me, what I experienced is just a lot of so much confusion and no one being honest with you, and people, just love bombing you and then talking, like saying something totally different behind your back because you're famous. And then that's really not good for a developing brain. It's really weird. I have a lot of compassion for people who were way more famous than me and had to deal with it at a totally different level. It must be very, very disorienting and isolating. And I think it's really dope that Jeanette McCurdy wrote her book, and it really inspired me to write mine, because I was like, who am I to write a book at my age? But when she came out with her memoir, and it was so in her voice, and it was so open, it inspired me to take a stab at writing my own. And my friend Allison Stoner is writing their book too, and they were extremely in that child star. What do they call it? Tots to some type of pipeline or whatever. And it's to go back to I think what you first asked. If someone came to me and they were like, I'd like to sign, and it was a child that wanted to sign to Clover Music, I wouldn't want to work with a child. I don't think that's my calling in life, but I would love to mentor children and parents. And I see this little boy on Instagram. It's called Miles Music Kid or something. You need to check him out. He has like Timbaland is following. Everyone follows him. Miles, and he's like a little Jacob Collier, and who's my friend, and he's like 7 years old, and he does everything. And me and his parents DM sometimes, and I'm sure they, and I'm just like, I'm so happy that you show that in his content that he's like, he also just goes and plays in the playground. He goes and takes a nap, and he goes and hangs with his sister, and he eats a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he is a kid, but he's so lit from within and wanting to do this. But as far as when you get contracts involved and stuff with a child, I don't know. And maybe it's just because it's my experience, but it's just not right. I spent so much time and money trying to get out of a contract that was signed for me and that I signed when I was 12 years old. So I wouldn't want to touch it.
Best piece of advice you would give to parents of child stars?
Oh, wow. Make sure that they're in therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure their child is in therapy.
Yeah. Because they need And not just any therapist, probably someone that can help them process the cognitive dissonance between what people are doing for them. And like, if this person is a child star,
right,
people are bringing them water and fixing their hair and asking and saying, oh my God, you're so amazing. And then also people are, talking crap about them on the internet. So they're being here and they're there, and their cortisol and dopamine and serotonin is like, wee, 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 wee. Make sure that they have periods where they're off their phone, because, and not, I would limit that screen time. I feel like, look,
we all should.
I have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, adults too.
All of us.
But I'm saying, like, who am I to give a parenting tip? I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, but
it's just like
good.
A human. I just feel like, especially on the developing brain,
yes,
it's a roller coaster.
Yes.
So I would say probably a therapist who specializes in like the developing brain and maybe what fame does to that, because that's weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What would you say for you, your experience? What was the hardest part of being a child star?
I loved it at the time. Like, I was living my dream. So it's what I wanted. I think the hardest part was, my parents were divorced, and I didn't really get to see my dad at all. His health wasn't good.
Sure.
And so it was hard for him to travel. He walked with a cane. It's not like we were rolling in money, and he certainly wasn't. And so I was like, I think back, and I missed my dad. I missed my family, but I was also like, woo! I loved what I was doing, and I never wanted to miss an opportunity. So I said yes to, I wanted to say yes to everything, but my mom was like, no, you need to do your school,
Yeah.
So I was tutored on the road, and I would, a quote unquote hard thing. That's what you asked, right?
Yeah.
The hardest part was, I'm grateful that my mom made me graduate high school, because I was like, I'm never going to need to work again. Like, I'm working obviously, but I was like, I never have to have a real job ever. And that's not necessarily, it has been true, but I just wanted to drop out. I was just like, I don't need, and that's just really how I felt. So I'm so grateful that she made sure that I graduated. And it just wasn't easy to pay attention because I didn't care anymore. I was like,
was it because you knew you had such a phenomenal voice? Like, this confidence that you have, did you just know, I'm about to,
No, it was because I was already famous at 13, I'm saying. So, like, by the time I was 16, I'm like, I'm dropping out.
Yes.
Like, hello.
You hear my song,
2
right?
platinum albums, like, what? I was like, I don't need nothing. But then, you can't tell me anything.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and then like, the label lost its distribution, and the executive producer, like, vanished, and then, like, everything was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, crap, I'm so glad I at least have a high school diploma if ever I need to go do something.
Right.
Because I was going to go to Northeastern University and study cultural anthropology, but then I moved to LA at 18 to make things work with my former label at the time, because I just like really wanted to keep moving forward.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as like what was hard, I would say staying focused on school when I was just like, I don't need school.
Being humble. Yeah. Like, that was out the
I don't need to
window.
be humble. Like, no, I mean, people would always be like, wow, you're so grounded. You're so humble. I'm like, aren't I? I don't know if I was or that was an act. I don't know.
Oh, it's so good. Wait, Britney Spears tried to sign you? Is that real?
Yeah, that's in the book too. Which
like how was it her? Was it I'm just so curious. I mean, Britney is Britney.
Britney is Britney.
So I'm very curious. Like, what?
So it was the first big concert that I ever went to in Boston. There's a pop station called Kiss 108. And I called in and won tickets. It was my first time ever winning anything. But I had just done my first nationally syndicated television show as like a talented kid. So they were like, I'm Joanna Levesque. And they're like, we just saw you on, whatever, right? I get tickets. I go in and I sing my way through security. Someone in the audience recognizes me and acts as my publicist during she's like, you need to sing for someone back there. And I'm like, I'd like to meet 98 Degrees and Britney Spears. Like, that'd be so cool. So I sing my way through security at this, amphitheater. And I end up making it all the way back to Britney's room. And I like do one of her songs, and I sing for her security guard, Big Rob. And then he's like, yeah, she should hear you. And I was just so audacious and so weird. Such a little weirdo. And she comes out and hears me. She's like, oh my God, like in her Louisiana accent. And she was so sweet. And she's like, and then she takes out like this camcorder because I was 8 years old. So this is 1999.
Wow.
Where she's just getting started.
Ooh.
So this is first album, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe we're on the Sometimes I Run. Maybe we're on that single.
Maybe.
Maybe.
This is a run. This is
a run.
Yeah.
And so then she sends the VHS, I guess, or someone gets it to her lawyer, Larry Rudolph, and then my mom gets a short form contract or something saying that they'd like to sign me to her production company as the first artist. And when my mom was like, "You're too young," I'm like, "You don't care about me. You hate me." But I was definitely 8 or 9, so I'm so grateful that didn't happen.
I mean, you were 8.
Yeah.
But you know what I love about that? The hustle. You were determined.
I put a hat out on the street. Like I did that all the time in Providence and Boston. I would purposely. My mom must have been like, "You're wearing a hat again. I know what you're gonna do." And I would just randomly put it down. She'd be like, "Okay, this is happening again," and I just start belting, and then people would come around, and I do think what it takes to be crazy enough to be like, yeah, I think it's that audacity that can really change your life, and I would sing for anybody who would listen. I really felt most confident and most like just lit up when I was singing. And yeah, I loved it.
Were you nervous to put out the memoir?
I was nervous.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
you share a lot. I mean, it's a lot. It's a
bit of an overshare sometimes. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of personal stuff in there. It's not just like the overview of a career, or it's not just like,
it's not surface, it's not fluff. It's, you actually share the real.
It wasn't a piece of merch for me, It was that's how someone at my book publishing company said it, and I was like, yeah, it's not. It's really like I wanted to connect with whoever it was meant to connect with, and the most important thing over any like measure of success that it reached was that it allowed me to connect with myself more and to be able to look at things in black and white and be like, oh my God, I have more compassion for myself than I did, because I had a very adversarial relationship with teenage me as an adult, or with me in my 20s. I had so much judgment and judgment, particularly of me in my 20s when I was in a lawsuit with no end in sight, when my dad was overdosing and my mom was in the throes of her own addiction, and both of them, one would be okay and the other would not be okay, and I just was really, really struggling, and I was trying to hold on for dear life just to take care of things, and and now that when I wrote it out, I was like, oh my God, I just wish I could just give her a hug.
Yeah.
So I was scared to share some of those things, but I'm also the type of person that kind of wants to get ahead of anything that anyone might have on me. Mm-hmm. If like there's something that someone could be like, oh, remember when you did this? Wasn't that messed up? I'd be like, I already said it.
Right.
And now any power that this person might have, I just want to diffuse that.
But I also feel like you didn't share people's names at times, right? Like I feel like it wasn't one of those books where you're just like, I'm putting it out there. It's a money grab.
No.
It doesn't, I'm not saying that you're protecting people, but it didn't feel in a salacious way. Does that make sense? Like
I'm not a salacious person.
And I just feel like those stories are important because they happen to you, but I don't feel, I think it was more surprising. It was shocking. I also, again, it's one of those like, oh my gosh, I didn't know she was going through that. Like that makes me sad. And now that I'm a mom, it's a different level of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. It just makes you more emotional, at least for me. Right. It has. Katrina, wouldn't you say for yourself too? We're both moms. You're just like, I didn't know she was, like immediately in the beginning when Katrina and I were talking, I was like, I didn't even know she was going through that. Like, why didn't anyone help her? There was like a million questions. So I think I'm proud of you because it's not easy to share that in general, whether it's in a private setting or a trusted friend, let alone when you're sharing it with the world, right? In a book and it's out there. Did you feel relief? Did you feel relief and scared? Like when it was out there, did you sit in the dark and think like, okay, what happens next? Like what was going through your mind when that was it? The finished product is in there and here we go.
My biggest thing was making sure that my mom was going to be okay with some of the things that I was sharing, because my story is her story, is our story. My success is her success. And like she was a single mom raising me and dealing with her own struggles. Everybody does. Yeah. I think she did an amazing job. And also there was a lot of pain and hurt and things that, I had to work through and that she had to work through. And so I just wanted to make sure that she felt that I handled her story, our story, with care, and that I was looking at it and painting her as a full human being who is not just, that just really, really mattered to me. So when she told me that she was proud, after I sent her, I asked her to read like every single draft as I was, revising it, and she was like, I don't want to read it. I'm like, you sure? I would love for you to be a part of this edit, like just to make sure you're cool with it. And she's like, no. And I'm like, all right, I don't know what to say. I'm talking about these things. Are you okay with that? She's like, it is what it is. I'm like, all right. But then she was like, I do want to read it. I'm like, now you do in the final draft? So I sent her the final draft, and I'm like, damn it, I just sent this into my publisher. What am I going to do? But she was like, I'm so proud of you. You did a great job. I'm like, nothing else matters. Everything is fine. Like, but I will say that like, it was nerve-wracking having calls with the legal department at my publishing company and been like, you need to change these things or you run the risk of getting sued. I'm like, I need to tell the truth. I've never really wanted to name names if it's not necessary. But even like in sharing things about people that were a part of my team or something like that, like even if I'm not naming them, it's like this characteristic, they could sue you if they wanted to. I'm like, I don't even want to deal with that. So learned a lot about different ways of saying things that you could still get things across. But bottom line, it was very freeing just to be like, that chapter is closed.
Yep.
That way of thinking, that way of being under the influence of everybody else, listening to everybody else but myself is done. I'm just not, it just doesn't make sense to live that way anymore. So that's why Over the Influence is the title.
I love this. Wait, you also admit to cheating, because I do want to talk about this, because we go back and forth about a cheater, if they're always going to be a cheater.
Always a cheater, right?
Do you believe this?
I don't, because since I had that rupture where I betrayed first of all, it was very nebulous. It was a situationship in general, okay?
Okay, so...
But we were best friends. I owed more to us than to be...
Yeah, okay, got it.
Than to be sus, than to be disrespectful, than to be sneaky. We were moving in a direction. I'm making excuses, like, you know what I mean? It was wrong.
Right.
What I did, period, point blank. I believe that, and that was years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'd made a habit of it before, because I was looking for attention and validation and instant, something. And that's addict behavior. Mm-hmm. And it hurt so much to see the person that I loved, to see the effect of my actions on the person that I loved. And I will never be the same from that.
Wow.
I will never, ever put myself in the positions that it takes to then do something. Like, what you're doing before, when your energy is open. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there is no excuse. You don't say yes to the first drink. You don't be alone with the person you're attracted to. You don't put yourself in the positions. You don't be a weirdo.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
I think it's like that. Now, What do you think? And it's okay. I've been, I embrace the different chapters of my life. But what do you think as far as once a cheater, always a cheater?
I think you could. It doesn't define you for the rest of your life. No, I just. I don't know if I think this is going to sound bad, but I think for guys, once a guy is a cheater, is always a cheater.
Really?
I think so. I think at a certain age, like I think if you are cheating in your 40s, like that's just who you are probably. I just think if you are wiser and more experienced, then okay. But like cheating in like high school isn't going to determine the rest of your life, in my opinion. Like mid-30s, it's sketchy.
Yeah.
It's sketchy,
I think it speaks to a lack of integrity.
Exactly.
And it's like, so there's a deeper issue.
Right.
And might you want to address it?
Right.
Because does it feel good to live this way? Does it feel good to like lie and like, or do you like getting away with it? Does it make you feel good to get over on other people? Because like, that sounds terrible to me.
Yeah. It does.
I actually want to be a safe space for somebody. And first of all, myself, that I can like rest in not needing to hold any secrets or do any weird. I'm just like, I'm not available to it ever again.
Wow.
It's not worth it.
Did anyone from your past call you after the memoir came out and was just like, hey, what? I didn't know this. I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt right now.
I did randomly run in. It was such a New York moment. I ran into.
It's such an episode of Sex and the City right now.
I ran into an ex on the street. I was coming home from doing Moulin Rouge, and it was just so instinctual just to be like, oh, hi! Like, I was such a dweeb, and I wasn't even thinking that I wrote this chapter about him that he might not really dig, because we looked at the relationship differently. Like, I felt like we weren't supposed to be together, and he felt like we were. And it was just really bad. He cursed me out. He was like, F off. Because he...
Really?
Yeah. It just wasn't good. And...
In that moment?
In that moment.
Oh.
Yeah. I felt so... Woo! I felt so crazy. I felt so sad. But also just sad that, like... that you're cursing me out in the street. Like... There's stuff you still need to work through.
Right.
But regardless, I don't want to hurt anybody. That doesn't feel nice. But I shouldn't have been like, hi! And my book just came out, and maybe I just shouldn't have done that.
Ooh.
I should have just kept on walking. But it was so like, oh my God, I know you. It was so weird.
I don't know. I don't think you need to be hard on yourself, because I probably would have done that too. I would have been like, hey. Like, we're crossing paths. We're
it was
in
very
New York.
serendipitous. I was just like, oh my God, you're on my street.
Be
what
nice.
are you doing here? Yeah, I was just too hyped.
You know what it was? That was all that therapy. See that? All the good coming out
know.
of you.
I don't know.
That nice, all that good energy. Like, yes.
And I feel like he probably thought like, oh, she's so snide or glib or whatever. And she's so like, she thinks she's high and mighty. And look at her. She's glowing. And I don't know what he was thinking. I thought about this ad nauseum, obviously. But I'm just like, damn, you cursed me out. And then I was like,
all the way out.
Yeah.
Were other people on the street?
So actually, I was in like a black car. I was in like a SUV, and I was turning onto my street, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I like roll the window down. So he's like out, and I'm like hanging out the car, and he comes up, and we give each other like just a kiss on the cheek, and I'm like, "How are you doing?" And blah blah blah, and he's like, "Great, I'm doing great," and I'm like, "Good, I'm so happy to hear that." And then he's like, I forget what it was. And then I think the car kind of kept rolling. Like, because I wasn't driving, but there were cars behind us, and the car kept rolling. And then he was like, as the car kept rolling, he was like, F off. And I'm like,
okay, roll
the window up.
We're done here.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I guess that's that.
Yep,
So.
that's done.
Yeah.
Okay. What 3 songs would you say describe JoJo? If somebody's like, I want to know more about JoJo, or I want to know what matters to her most.
Oh my God.
What 3 songs should they listen to?
Girl. Wait, of mine?
Of yours.
Whoa.
I know this is hard, but
I would say probably Porcelain Reimagined, which is the last song on the NGL EP.
With the sample.
Yeah, so the reimagined version is a stripped down version of the one with the sample.
Okay, we got to talk about the sample too.
Okay, yes,
but keep
the
going,
Uncle
keep
Luke
going.
sample.
Yeah.
I would say that, the reimagined version of Porcelain. I'm probably going to name, 3 songs from the EP. Ready to Love, Too Much to Say, and Porcelain. But really, if someone wanted to get to know me now, listening to that EP would probably give you a good little foundation.
A good foundation.
There.
Yeah. Oh, let's talk about Porcelain a little bit with the sample.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Why the sample? What was it? You know, it's a music conversation. I love to understand when an artist uses a sample, because it's like, what? You must really be a fan, or you must like this person.
Right, because it ain't free.
Right.
So you got to be intentional about it. And Uncle Luke is about his money. So
you cut that check for him?
Yeah, of course. He deserves it. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. So we wrote the song, me and my boy Lil Eddie from Spanish Harlem, who I've been writing with since my first album. I absolutely love him, and he wrote for my first album. And then we started collaborating, and he is dope. We wrote Porcelain, Nobody, and One Last Time on this EP, and we wrote it to a live groove. And then we were talking about, I think I was like, what if we got that sample that's like, don't stop, pop that don't stop. Because I wanted it to feel like euphoric. I wanted it to feel like catharsis, sweating, crying, running on a treadmill, or just like running down the streets and just letting it go. That's what it felt like to me, like soaring. And sometimes if you're running really fast, sometimes it feels like that. And so I was like, it'd be so cool to put that in. And then he's like, what if we, use that beat? Is it like a Jersey house beat where it's like, don't. Yeah. So he was like, what about that? And I'm like, yeah. So then we just kept kind of adding different layers. And then my producer nephew and David Williams, who was in the room too, producing. It was just like a really cool collaborative thing. But I was like, what if it's like a emotional twerking, like emotional strip club type of song. That's just what I wanted to kind of feel like.
And that's where we come.
Yeah.
I like that though. I like to know what goes behind a sample. And was it hard to clear?
Yeah, it was. Thankfully, I didn't have to make any calls or do anything. Thankfully, my lawyer and my manager were on that.
That's their job.
Yeah, thankfully, I have people that know what they're doing with that. But yeah, it was interesting, like certain asks, and then even like, since I'm doing this independently, they were like, oh, if you sign with this independent distributor, we won't give you the clearance to the sample. Not the one I ended up going with. But they were like, yeah, because we don't like the way they do business. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting all the behind the scenes tea.
Well, that comes with being a boss and being in the game and the experience.
You get more
having
information.
your own label, right? Like now you're dealing with, the paperwork of that kind of the clearances and what goes behind it.
Yeah. It was so interesting also to think about, how do we want to spend my money? Okay.
Right.
Because
my money.
Yeah. What is worth it?
Sure.
And what will, what will support the art and the longevity of it, and how can I get it out to my fans? How do I get it out to people who aren't my fans but who might dig it? And when I think back to how like label budgets were opened and I just had no idea what was going on in my teens and 20s, like it just wasn't taught to me really to know. So you just have to, I've learned on the job a lot.
Oh yeah. But you're doing good at it.
Thanks.
And how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as somebody who wasn't afraid to, who embraced growth and who pivoted and who was, someone who was a light. I would like to be remembered as someone who brought a little bit of light.
Light and truth.
Thank you. That's this tattoo that I have here, truth.
I did not see that. Yeah. I just, for whatever it's worth, people on the internet watching
so nice
this,
of you to say.
I did not see that at all.
Yeah, it's. I'm getting a few of my tattoos removed, and like I'm not removing this one. I just really love this one.
Wait, why are you getting other tattoos removed?
I don't know, girl, because I just want to feel pain. No, it's so painful. No, it's because as I do more acting or more theater, it's really hard to cover them. So I'm just covering just some of them.
Yeah.
Just getting some of them removed with this amazing company called Removery. They have 150 locations. This is not an ad, but I just want to say this.
To
it's
help.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a Sagittarius, and we're the truth seekers of the zodiac, and I am just interested in things. Yeah. So thank you for saying that.
I didn't see it. I promise. That is just from the conversation and just seeing how you move. And you are a light that speaks truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And I think that just speaks more to your character than anything else. And that's important in this, in what we leave in this world and whatever may happen to us next. I think you have shared so much with us for such a long time. And I hope you know that people love you, they care for you, they want to see you win. And you're doing it the way that it was meant to be. That is it is your path. It is the most fitting. Does that make sense? Like having this conversation and seeing you in person, actually in person, everything that you have gone through, it's just like, wow, that's a lot. But you know, what you've done with the grace that you have is really amazing. You know,
wow, thank you.
I think life it's fragile, right? And sometimes we just don't know where our paths are going to take us and how we're going to react in certain situations. But I feel like you're doing the best that you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Life is, maybe it's the soft side of me because I'm a mom now, but it's just one of those things like, I'm happy for you and to see you doing well and to see you living your truth and just being free. I'm like, I don't know. I wish that for everyone.
Thank you. I wish for everyone that they have fun if they've been not having fun for a long time, because I can't, everybody's life is so challenging. Like
Yes.
no one is exempt from that. And sometimes you just get in a groove where you're just kind of like not there and you're just showing up. And I really hope that people will be able to have fun, reignite a flame within them that they once had that maybe they thought was gone forever, and know that they're worthy of going on that journey.
Yes. Yes.
Investing into themselves however they can. And it must be so hard as a parent to do that. I can't imagine. I am, eccentric auntie over here, able to just like, I get to move to New York and like, I'm just going to go do whatever I want. So I know it's easier said than done, but you as an individual are worth it. So I really hope that. And I'm excited to bring the way that I feel right now into this new tour.
Yes.
Because I feel such an ease and such a inspiration and excitement right now. And I know that that's going to translate to what it feels like to be on stage and what it feels like to connect with the audiences and to just be a part of the community that we've fostered over the years. And I'm really excited about that.
February 22nd kicks off, correct?
Nashville we start, and then April 10th we end in Miami. So it's like almost 30 dates, and it's been years since I've been on tour, so I'm excited.
Oh, this is so exciting.
I know, I can't wait.
You got to come back again.
Anytime.
This is
I love chatting with you.
I had a great time. This is like part one of many, but just know that we're always here.
Thank you.
And Katrina's super fan. She's a super fan, and we're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And good luck on that road, man. You're going to kill it. I know you had to add extra days because you are in demand, JoJo.
Girl,
that is what happens when you bring talent, undeniable talent, and just a beautiful light. It's one of those things that we get to see. I don't know. It's just good souls continue to win. Despite whatever they've gone through or being counted out or whatever it is. It's nice to see that. It's a win. It's a win for everybody.
They can't keep us down.
No,
they can't. There's no they. It's just like, let's just go.
Us. Yeah. It's just, let's go.
Let's go.
But I'm excited for you. Have fun on tour.
Thank you. I hope
come
to
back
see you.
to New York.
I hope to see you in New York. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, cool.
We are going to be out.
Okay. Yes.
Mom's night out. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Us moms will be out, but I'm excited for you. Go back to Broadway at some point because then we'll come and see you there.
I will.
Don't go back to LA. I'm kidding. We love everyone.
We love everybody, yeah.
We love everyone. Thank you, JoJo.
Thank you.
Of course.